In the Chronicles of Kings and Conquerors, one name echoes across time: Richard the Lionheart. A man not remembered for the crown he wore, but for the fire in his soul. Born in 1157, Richard was a prince of England, but he didn't dream of courtly life or golden halls. He dreamed of steel and storms. While other royals were taught to rule, Richard was trained to fight. Swordsmanship, siegecraft, horsemanship, he mastered them all. By 16, he wasn't a boy leading men. He was a warrior king in the making. He crushed rebellions in France, laid siege to castles, and proved that he could command not just armies, but loyalty. When his father, King Henry II, refused to share power, Richard rebelled. Yes, he waged war against his own father and won. Because in Richard's world, weakness was not an option. Then came the Third Crusade, a call to arms that echoed across Christendom. Jerusalem had fallen to the Muslims, and Richard, now King of England, answered not with prayer, but with purpose. He sold lands, emptied treasuries, and gathered warriors from every corner of his realm. He even taxed the clergy to fund the Holy Mission. Because to Richard, this wasn't just a crusade, it was a destiny. In the Holy Land, Richard became a legend. He led charges with unrelenting fury, his golden armor blazing under the desert sun. At the Battle of Arsuf, he faced overwhelming odds and crushed Saladin's forces with strategy and strength. Even his enemies watched in awe. They called him Melek Rik, the king like a lion. But Saladin was no ordinary foe. He was noble, disciplined, a leader beloved by his people. And despite their war, an unlikely bond of respect formed between them. When Richard fell ill, Saladin sent his best physician. When Richard's horse was killed in battle, Saladin sent two his gifts. They fought, but they never hated, because both men knew true greatness lies not just in victory, but in honor. And yet Richard never set foot in Jerusalem. He reached its gates, but rather than spill more blood, he chose peace. He brokered a treaty with Saladin. Jerusalem would remain under Muslim control, but Christian pilgrims could walk its streets in safety. It wasn't the conquest many expected, but it was a triumph of wisdom over ego, of honor over pride. But back in Europe, shadows waited. On his journey home, Richard was shipwrecked, captured by a rival duke in Austria, and handed over to the Holy Roman Emperor, a king sold like a prisoner. While Richard rotted in a dungeon, England bled. Taxes rose, coins were melted, every jewel, every ounce of gold collected to pay his ransom, 150,000 marks. A staggering price, and yet his people paid it, because Richard was their lion. Years later, in a skirmish over a petty castle, Richard was struck by a crossbow bolt. He forgave the archer who shot him, but the wound turned fatal. At just 41, the Lion of England took his final breath. But kings die, legends live. Richard is remembered not for the lands he ruled, but for the courage he carried into every battle. Not for the power he wielded, but for the honor he never betrayed.